What's up, guys and girls? Welcome back. Today we're at an interesting point, like in this hobby as a whole, where a lot of people are starting to feel burnt out of just collecting, buying, the constant need to watch stuff, take a look at restocks, go to stores, do all this, do all that, just to see our product. So today I'm going to dive in and just kind of talk about the life cycle of the Pokemon collector and where we currently are like sitting at in that life cycle. So if you're ready for that video, let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first phase for a lot of people when they're getting back into the hobby is just the nostalgia of it. Everyone goes back and sees their Charizard, or they hear about like recent stuff that's going on. They're like, wow, that's really cool. I remember just collecting Pokemon cards back when I was like really little in the 90s, early 2000s. I really want to get back into that and just see what's going on. So that's kind of how it starts a lot of time, is going through that nostalgic phase. That eventually fades into the full-blown, okay, I'm going to get into this. I'm deep diving into it. So they go collecting, investing phase, which is kind of, okay, this is where a lot of my money is going to start going. I want to collect stuff, invest in stuff, and just have stuff available that I like and I want to keep on a shelf or display or have in a binder. That's normally along the lines of how you transition from just, oh, nostalgia for Pokemon into that full-blown collector investing sphere. After you get into the full-blown collecting and investing sphere, the next kind of thing that you start to feel is burnout. And that's completely normal for most people. Most people, I think, Rudy Investments and other PokeTubers have talked about, the average lifespan for a person in Pokemon TCG is about a year to 2 years. That's it. And then they fall off and eventually they'll come back into the hobby again once things start reigniting and people start having interest in it again. But most people don't stick with this. This isn't a permanent thing for them. They're just in Pokemon now because they have nostalgia, then maybe they're wanting the money. Like, people are in it for their own reasons, but it will not last forever. People typically can't stay with one thing forever. It's just, and that's where you get into the burnout. When people can't go into stores and find things they want to do and they're having to spend more price point wise, and it starts adding up and getting way more expensive than they initially thought. This leads all back to burnout and how people just start to feel like overworked and overconsumed by something they thought they loved, when in actuality it feels like it's overwhelming them. It's becoming too much for them to have to deal with when originally they were really into it. Now you might be asking yourself, where are we currently in 2025 here in August? And I think we're starting to head towards that burnout phase for a lot of people. A lot of people, I think, are starting to cut back on the spending they're doing on Pokemon just because they're realizing how expensive everything is to purchase. Even if you're getting every single drop at MSRP, it adds up so astronomically quickly because Pokemon is just a luxury product, and the fact that you don't need it to survive. So the prices are going to just be more expensive. Even if you get an ETB at every drop for MSRP, if they have two different styles of ETBs and all that, that could be $120 like every month or so. If you're trying to always catch restocks, go to GameStop when they have ETB. Like, it adds up very quickly, and I think we're starting to see people are trending that way. People aren't spending as much. I've noticed personally that like things aren't as expensive now. Like, well, singles keep dropping in price, but sealed is a whole different beast. But people are not willing to spend as much on singles right now currently, and it's leading to price drops on most cards. Obviously, there's outliers that are still skyrocketing up. I'm looking at you, Kingdra from Shrouded Fable promo. But it's a trend I'm starting to notice that demand is starting to decrease, at least in the singles market. Eventually, that'll lead to the sealed market. Right now, not the case at all. Sealed, obviously, will always, eventually decrease in supply and go up in price. That's just how sealed works. But eventually, I think interest will wane. I'm not saying it's going to be happening in 3 months. I'm not even saying it's going to happen in the next 8 months. But I could see 2027 being a completely different beast from what we're in 2025, and maybe even 2026, like later half. So it'll be interesting to see because, like I said, I'm just noticing what I'm seeing. I think the interest for singles is starting to wane a little bit, but yeah, I just want to talk about burnout also, because burnout isn't just the fatigue you feel of oh, I'm spending too much money. It also is just the always constant need to be updated. It is an overwhelming amount of information about Pokemon that's always online at any time, whether that's restocks, promos, new sets that just got released, new artwork got released. There's always something going on in the Pokemon scene that is just information that you're now collecting into your head and having to think about 24/7. I mean, obviously not everyone thinks about it 24/7, but it can get overwhelming to somebody who's really in deep into Pokemon, and it can just feel like, oh wow, this is a lot to keep track of. I'm not having as much fun as I was in the beginning. Maybe I need to take a step back and come back here once the hype dies down, once there isn't as much traffic here and I'm able to pick up some Pokemon cards for a lot cheaper. Once that starts being the norm again, I think people will, slowly, gradually come back into it until it hits another height. But right now, I feel like we're at that point where people are starting to take a look and be like, this is just too much for me. But for a lot of people, burnout can be the end of them collecting in Pokemon because they just feel overwhelmed. A lot of times they might not just come back because it's like, well, I had fun with it, but it was a lot last time I remember doing it. I don't want to dive back into that realm of Pokemon. I'll just do what I want to do. Maybe I'll just enjoy the games. Maybe I don't even focus on Pokemon. Maybe I go back to Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic. Who knows? But for me, personally, I think the best way to focus so you don't feel burnt out is just focusing on like one or two, maybe three things you really enjoy and want to collect. So for me personally, that's my Trainer Master set I'm working on. I'm working on a White Flare Master set, and also I want to collect all the Scarlet Violet ETBs. Now that is astronomically expensive now, but it's something for me to work towards. All these goals probably will cost me like what, $20,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but I know if I budget properly, I can get there eventually. But, a lot of people don't think like that. They think I want the next set. Like for me, Mega Evolutions isn't that high of a priority. I like Mega Evolutions, as you can see, Charizard, but it's whatever. I don't think the artwork's fantastic in my opinion. I think there's some cards that are cool, but overall, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not gonna go for that. I'm gonna focus on the things I enjoy so I don't get burnt out and don't feel like I'm overwhelmed. So personally, if you're looking and worried that you might be getting burnt out, that's what I would do. Focus on like three things you really enjoy and feel are possible for you to complete over a reasonable amount of time. So yeah, that about wraps it up for this video. If you are feeling burnt out, trust me, you're not alone in this. It feels like everyone seems to be burnt out right now, or like starting to feel those feelings in the back of their head where it's like, do I really need to go for Mega Evolutions 1, or maybe 2, 3, 4, do I really like Mega Evolutions that much? A lot of people weren't around in 2016 for when Mega Evolutions was coming out. For me, I remember when they were getting leaked back in like 2014 or so in Koro, and I was checking out all the leaks all the time. So, Megas are cool to me, but it's not a set I'm like so in love with. So if you're feeling burnt out, don't worry about it. It's completely normal. But yeah, check out the other videos on the channel, like and subscribe, help me out a ton. If you do have any sets that you're super looking to collect or anything in particular, just let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. But otherwise, I think that's going to be it for me today. So I appreciate y'all stopping by. Take care.